The first thing would be the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, excuse me, opening prayer first. Almighty God, you have blessed us with memory, reason, and skill. Help us use them wisely in the service of our town government. We ask this in thy holy name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Anybody wish to address the board? I know you're going to be in a minute, Matt. I just got a few things I want to get off the agenda here early on. I told Matt in about 10 minutes or so I'll get to him, hopefully. I need approval of December 10th meeting. Is our regular board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from December 10th, 2013.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need to approve this end of the year meeting that we had on December 27th. We need to pay the bills at the end of the year.
I make a motion that we approve the December 27th end of the year meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then we did have a January 7th meeting at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I need a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of December 7th meeting.
January 7th.
January.
Oh, January. Wow,
Yeah,
that's bad.
it's okay, John. We have 3 of them here tonight. We've been had a busy month. Do I have a second to that motion tonight? I'll second it. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I forgot to welcome our new board member aboard. Brian Moore joined us here the first of the year. We're glad to have him aboard. He's coming to us with some past experiences on different boards, including this board back in the 90s. We certainly welcome you. Look forward to your input on the board. Just quickly, I'm going to read off the committee appointments. Deputy Supervisor will be Richard Favreau. Grant Committee, Brian Moore, John Cooper, and Mike Tatro Jr. Water and Sewer, Steve Southwick and John Cooper and Mike Tatro. Highway Committee, John Cooper and Brian Moore. Building Committee, Brian and Richard. Emergency Preparedness Committee, John Cooper and Dick Favreau. Handicap Discrimination Committee, Brian Moore and myself. Town Policy Committee, myself and Richard Favreau. Zoning Committee, Steve Southwick. Planning, Richard Favreau. Landfill Committee, Steve Southwick and Brian Moore. Zoning and Code Officer, Mike Tatro Jr. Registrar of Vital Statistics, Julie Castine. Budget Officer is myself. Harassment Officer, Jane West. Fixed Asset Record Clerk, Jane West. Youth Director, Linda Fredette. Cable Franchise, Richard Favreau. Dog Control Officer will be Joe Mott. Fire District Liaison is Steve Southwick. Safety Officers is Mike Tatro. Board of Assessment Review, that's Brian Moore. Parks and Youth is Richard Favreau and Brian Moore. Shared Services is Steve Southwick and John Cooper. Historian is Tom Mandeville. I would like a motion just to approve those appointments.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We need to review and accept the town policies on personnel, conflict of interest, code of ethics, sexual harassment, drug-free workplace, procurement, drug and alcohol, safety and health, investments, and disaster response. I'd like to add on 2 more on the next page. Hazardous material response and hazardous communication. I'd like to have accept those town policies as they're written.
Make a motion to accept the town policies as written. I think, should I read this thing that we received from Jane? She'd like to change the procurement schedule as a part of it.
I don't know, should we take that separately or?
We got the resolution on that, or do we just have to,
Well, I think we should take that separate, John, okay?
Or you
Pardon?
could make a motion to accept the ones here
And add this.
and add those to it, wouldn't you
Yes,
think, Julie?
that'd be fine. Okay, did I have a motion to accept those policies? Oh, John?
Yes.
Okay, and you want to read the one that we're gonna add to it, John, please?
That's okay. Jane sent us this thing, and this is the way she got it set up here. During the budget process this last fall, we discussed the possibility of adding Columbus Day to the list of holidays and non-bargaining members. That's for our information. On the policy for the procurement, we'd like to propose the town board consider changing the town policy regarding vendor signatures on town vouchers prior to payment for purchases. This would avoid holding checks and eliminate penalty charges. The signature on the voucher should be a department head or individual that orders the items. The individual will be responsible for the accuracy of the bill and the amount.
So the motion is to accept the policies we have in place with these two additional ones. Did we have a second to that motion, Julie? No second? I need a second.
I'll second that.
I thank you. Okay. Any questions on any of the policies, including these two new ones? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. The salaries for 2012, excuse me, 2014, it does say 2012. Well, maybe we're reverting
Year's
back
off to a
to
start.
You should catch you off guard.
supervisor is 19,000, council members is 6,150 each, 6,500, $6,150 each. Highway superintendent, 18,746, elected position, and 32,791 for a full-time working position. Town clerk, tax collector is 25,532. Additional duties for water and sewer clerk is $3,275. Planning and zoning clerk is $9,347. $9,347. Justices is $23,051 each. Marriage officer is $1,000. Youth director is $5,912. Board of Assessment Review is $1,500. That's $300 each for 5 members of that board. Deputy town clerk is $1,000. I'd like to accept those. Have a motion for that, please.
I make a motion to accept the salaries for the year 2014 as listed in red.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Set the regular meeting night, the day of the week is normally Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month. The place is here at the town offices, and the time is 7 o'clock. I'd like a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve it.
Thank you.
Place.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Designate the following banks as the official depositories for town funds: the Champlain National Bank, Community Bank, and TD Bank North. Those 3 banks that we were able to use.
I'll make a motion to designate Champlain National Bank, Community Bank, and TD Bank North as the official depositories of town's funds.
Thank you. And a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We designate the town of Champlain official newspaper as being the Press Republican.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions?
We don't have any other choice, right?
There's really not.
I guess you could use a weekly paper, but I'm not sure. All those in favor?
Aye.
I want to abstain from that vote,
Okay, thank you.
for obvious reasons.
Okay. Please note that, Julie. Designate the town attorney as William Favreau. Like a motion to approve.
I make a motion to designate William Favreau from O'Connell or Arnowitz as our town attorney.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Designate the town attorney for zoning and planning as Tom Renane from the office of Stafford, Owens, Curtins, and Trombley.
I'll make a motion to designate Tom Renee as the attorney for, zoning and planning.
Second that motion.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Set the mileage rate, it says for 2013, and it means 2014. And the new rate just came out on the, I went on the Internal Revenue website. It was 55.5 cents last year, and this coming year it's 56 cents, half a cent difference. I'd like a motion to approve that.
Make a motion that we approve the mileage reimbursement rate for 56 cents a mile.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. A donation to the local veteran organizations is $100 each upon a submission of a voucher from them.
So moved.
Thank
I'll
you.
second that motion.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The next three things on the agenda here, we do not have to act on, I don't believe, because we have no, oh, excuse me. Pardon?
That makes two things.
We got two.
The first one I do, authorize payment in advance of audit and claims for public utility services, postage, freight, and express charges, and all payroll-related deductions. I need a motion to approve that.
I so move.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's also carried. The next two we do not act on because we normally do. We don't need to because nobody's going to New York City.
Well, I would make a motion that no one's allowed to go.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
For the public record, I have no problem with that.
Yes.
During the budget process, we decided that nobody was going to go to New York City.
I make a motion for the year 2014 that no one attends the Association of Towns meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Financial resolution as follows. In lieu of filing the town's financial report by the supervisor with the New York State Audit and Control, he is authorized instead to file a copy of his annual report given to the State Controller's Office within 60 days of the close of the financial year. And further, he re-forward a copy of the proof of publication of said report in the official town newspaper when filing the said audit and control.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's also carried. Post-audit resolution authorizing payment in advance of audit claims for public utilities, postage, freight, express charges. All such claims shall be presented at the next regular meeting for audit. And the claimant and the officer incurring or approving the same shall jointly and severally be liable for the amount disallowed by the town board. I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Them are all our appointments and resolutions. I think we'll take a break from the regular agenda because we have Matt Cooper here from Burning Car Group. Clarify some issues with us on our upcoming water sewer project. Matt?
Sure, you've got several updates. I'll start with water. There's several things I'd like to talk about. There's 5 particular points I want to touch on. First is bond resolution. It's been more than 30 days since you passed your bond resolution, so if Julie hasn't already, she can publish the estoppel notice. And then 20 days must pass after publishing of that before you can start borrowing money for the project. But then you'd be authorized to take a bond anticipation note to pay costs already incurred to reimburse the general fund and then any additional costs that we incur on the project as we move forward. So, the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund complete application, as we talked about, is due February 3rd. It does require the board to make a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the application for submission. So you do need to have a resolution to authorize him to sign that, the submission of the application.
Okay, we need a motion to approve myself to sign the application. The correct wording, maybe you can give that to us for the drinking water.
For the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund financial application. So
Okay,
the hardship application was submitted back in December. That application is being reviewed for your eligibility for grant and loan funds. This application has to be submitted by February 3rd for you to actually get distribution of that money in 2014. If we miss the February 3rd deadline, you could not get any money from the state grant loan. Now, it doesn't matter how much they say you're eligible for, you couldn't get it in 2014 if we don't have this in by February 3rd. You'd have to wait till 2015. And if we miss the February 3rd deadline, then we would have to cover all expenses in 2014 with a bond anticipation note that's interest bearing. Being eligible to receive these funds, the short-term loan from EFC is 0% interest. So it will pay for project costs at 0% interest, and then at the end of the project, 2 years, 3 years, however long that is from today, that short-term loan that you took for the whole project cost of $13.5 million, you will first pay $2 million off with the grant you received, and then the other $11.5 million gets rolled over into a 30-year 0% loan. So it's just the importance of meeting the February 3rd deadline is not to pay interest in 2014, other than the short period that we need to take this ban just until we can close on the short-term loan.
Okay, I need a motion to approve.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize Larry Bartolome, the supervisor, to make the application, to sign the application for the DWSRF assistance project.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Next, third item, an engineering amendment to our engineering agreement. We drafted an agreement last March to do all the services on the project. And that was prior to deciding on including the hardness treatment. So it was actually an engineering agreement based on a smaller project size, but when we added $2 million worth of hardness treatment into the project, that was not in my fee. So I've added that to our fee, and I've made 2 other adjustments in 2 other service line items, both the district formation assistance and the funding assistance, because we are already pushing the estimated total that I had in the agreement. So I raised those amounts. So our basic services for the project, which are the design of the project, our administration of the bidding phase, and our administration of the construction phase, those are lump sum fees in our contract. And those are the first few, after the study, those are the next. Basic services A, B, and C. Those are lump sum figures. Everything below that, 3 and then all the items under 4, are all hourly services. So what I have on there are estimated totals based on what I would anticipate. And again, the district formation process and the funding assistance process has been a timely one, and we're already reaching what I had estimated. So I've increased those in the amendment to make sure we cover that. I will note that although I'm just now making the adjustment to our engineering agreement, this dollar amount that I'm adding to our engineering agreement, I did make sure was in the funding application from back on August 1st. So the money to cover this is in the project. I just finally got around to actually adjusting our agreement for it.
So, I guess I don't follow you. How can it already be in there if we don't have an agreement for that amount?
The dollar amount is in the project budget.
But why wouldn't we already have an agreement in place to cover that if you already have it in the project? Where is it in the project?
It's in the budget for the technical services on the project. We signed the original contract in March.
Right.
In March, we weren't planning on doing the hardness treatment.
Agreed.
And then last minute, I mean literally within days of the August 1st deadline, it was decided include hardness treatment. So I adjusted the project budget by $2 million to add hardness treatment,
Including your fees.
including our fees. So my agreement now needs to be adjusted to reflect that.
Okay.
How many copies of this do you need signed?
6.
Oh, I gave them all out, so I won't be able to get them back now. Okay. Does anybody got any questions before I ask for a motion, Matt, on this particular agreement? Okay, if not, I'd like a motion to approve. This is the desire of the board.
I make a motion that we approve the professional service audit, or not the audit. But it's just an adjustment actually of the rates.
Amendment number 1.
Right?
It's engineering agreement amendment number 1.
Correct, the amendment.
I'll second that motion.
I thank you. Any further questions? If not, I think I'll have a roll call vote on this issue. John?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Stephen?
Aye.
And I, Richard?
Aye.
Aye for myself, thank you. I'll try to get these at your speaking.
The fourth item I'd like to talk about tonight is the intermunicipal agreement. I know we spent quite a bit of time of late talking about the terms and conditions of that. I know there's been some emphasis, particularly lately, in the financial terms of the agreement between the town and the village. So what I did is, for our discussion tonight, to talk about those financial terms. This is straight from, these are figures straight from the development of the engineering report. In fact, this was a larger spreadsheet that I had passed out to you in the past. It was on an 11 by 17 in the past that had scenarios. So the first scenario was if we received $2 million grant, the next one was $3 million, the next one was $4 million. For tonight, I'm just printed out the $2 million scenario because as of now, that's really all we have is the $2 million. It's the financial relationship between the town and the village as a result of this project is represented here in terms of the village and the town's budgets. Okay, now I have it in 2 columns for comparison purposes. So the 2012, 2013, those were the actual budgets for water that the town and village had. Proposed is as a result of this project. Okay, what it really boils down to is the 2 new lines I added to each budget. Okay, the shared water improvements debt and the shared water O&M. Those 2 lines relate directly to the financial terms of the IMA. Okay. First is the debt, the shared water improvements debt. So what that represents is from your IMA, Section 8A, debt service. That's the 25-75 split. So what's in the village's budget is 25% of the annual debt payment. It's the $76,000 figure. What's in the towns is the 228,000. That's 75% of the annual debt on the project. Okay, so those numbers correlate directly with Section 8A of the IMA. That's the split on the debt, the 25-75. The shared O&M that I have on the spreadsheet I handed out. The shared O&M. The village shows a figure of 53,000. The town shows a figure of 33,000. Those numbers tie directly to B of Section 8, which is the water supply. It's the prorated portions of the direct water supply cost. So what we had done is we took, right from the village's budget, what it costs them to produce water out of their plant. And it's roughly $1 per kgal is the raw operating cost of that plant. And this is where the town and the village are on a level playing field, is that the town is going to pay the exact same for the supply of water, for the producing of the water that the village pays. All we're gonna do is, whatever it costs to run that plant in a year, you're going to split percentage-wise based on how much water each used. If the village uses 60% and the town uses 40%, it's gonna be a 40-60 split on whatever the direct operating costs of that plant are. I feel, I don't wanna kinda get into the weeds too much here with details, but I think my numbers are conservative. Typically, the more water you produce, the cheaper you can do it per kgal, economy of scale.
Right.
But I did a straight linear interpolation. So if it cost $100,000 to produce, 100,000 kgal, if we're gonna double that, I said the cost of operating the plant is double. There should be some economy of scale, which both of you will benefit from if we can actually start producing water for 90 cents per kgal, because some of those costs are fixed, and some will increase as the water production increases. But again, you're on a level playing field. You're both going to pay the exact same per kgal for producing the water. Okay. Section 8C, Operation Administration, that $30,000 figure. Where that is on the town's budget is a combination of water administration, the 20 grand, and the employee benefits of 10 grand. That's the 30 grand I extrapolated from this as what the payment would be for the village for doing operation, maintenance, and administration of the town's water district. Now what we have additionally in the town budget is another 20 grand for transmission and distribution. That's for hard costs, hydrants, valves that break, meters that break, things like that. Those hard costs will be covered by that 20 grand in the budget. And then there's other things that I've included in the town's budget too, whether or not you choose to actually bill your customers for capital project reserves, how much your general support is. I put some placeholders in here. Again, I think I'm pretty conservative with this, because when you form the district at a maximum user cost of $816 per year, you cannot exceed that in the first year. So I'd rather have my budget figures a little fat and hopefully come in under it to maybe $790 per year or $780 per year than try to paint a pretty picture that really doesn't exist and have the rates come in at $820, $830, something like that. So those lines right there spell out the financial exchange that occurs between the town and the village.
They also spell out the 816 as well, right?
Well,
See
the
that?
816 is a function of those financial exchanges.
Right.
Okay, those financial exchanges will be memorialized in the agreement. So the town districts will have those expenses. I mean, it's just like when you do your town budget. You know what your expenses are. Really, the last thing you do is set your tax rates, your property tax rates. Once you know what all your expenses are, you take your tax base and say, how much do we have to charge them for $1,000 assessment to generate enough money to cover our annual expenses? Well, that's the same thing you do with the water district. You know your annual expenses, they're memorialized in this agreement. You owe the village $30,000 for operating and maintaining and administering your system. You owe $228,000 toward the loan payment. And then you owe your portion of the water supply of the plant. I mean, if you use 40% of the water, you owe 40% of what it costs to run that plant. Those are memorialized in the agreement. I mean, that's kind of cast in stone day one.
Right,
What
but-
you need to generate that is a simple function of math. I mean, you gotta charge the people X number of dollars per kgal in order to come up with, that $339,888 a year.
I guess I'm confused. I thought the 816 was your best estimate of what the annual costs were going to be to a user, including all those expenses.
It is. It is.
Okay.
But the 816 is a function of what your expenses are.
Right.
And those are fixed. We're memorializing those in the
Yes,
IMA.
I understand.
Yep.
But I want to make sure that we're not talking about the 30,000 that we owe the village for maintaining our system, basically, is not something that we have to add on to what we're projecting as the annual cost
Nope.
per EDU. I understand it's going to be somewhat flexible based on if we have more than we anticipate for annual problems,
Mhm.
like a water main break that we didn't anticipate,
Right.
or,
Right.
that's gonna fluctuate, but I'm saying the majority of what your estimates you've come up with are calculated into that $816 a year per EDU.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, adding up all the budget line items, all the
Right.
costs,
Yep.
I simply took that number, divided it by the town's
Okay.
quarter, and it's a function of that.
I
mean,
understand what you're saying now. I got you.
So, really, there's not much to do with the rates
Mhm.
as far as decision-making goes
Mhm.
after the IMA is approved. Once the IMA is approved,
Right.
that
It
memorializes,
Yes, I
you
understand.
just back into the user rate then.
Understood.
Now, where there is some discretion in setting user rates, what I suggest, or what I typically see a town do, is kind of have a two-part rate. So you charge a fixed cost per EDU, and typically that covers your debt payment. So you take your $228,000
Mhm.
and you divide that by the EDUs, and you charge everybody that amount per their EDU assignment.
Okay.
That way, day one, you're gonna generate enough revenue to pay your loan.
You're meeting your debt service.
You're meeting your debt service, because you don't wanna be, you want to know that revenue's coming.
Yes,
So that's a fixed payment for every user.
right, okay.
And then all the rest of it, the source supply, the operation maintenance charge, that you can calculate into a price per gallon
Right.
to the user. And again, simply, so the difference is $110,000. Well, you think these people are gonna use, how much water?
Right.
60,000 gallons. Well, how much do we have to charge them then?
Mhm.
60,000 gallons per day. How much do we have to charge them per gallon to generate the 110,000 we need? Again, it's just math.
Right.
There's not a lot of new decisions to be made, I should say.
This new agreement includes the village doing the billing?
The administration, yes, because they will have the meter reader, they will have all the software that'll generate all the bills. And quite honestly, once you have that new system with the radio read, the operator will be able to read every meter in the town and village in probably less than a half hour. And then once that reader gets docked to the computer, it just generates the bills in minutes. The whole process can be done in less than an hour. Of 1,000 bills could be generated that quickly.
Okay.
The other thing I like that Greg was mentioning about that system is how it's gonna report out any unusually high
Mhm.
use of water, meaning there's a leak somewhere, or there's something going on that's inconsistent, so that, you get billed quarterly for 4 quarters in a row, and then all of a sudden, you see this uptick, and something's going on, so it raises an alert for, preventative maintenance stuff.
You can go back and look at the day,
Yeah.
you know.
There's, different operators pay different levels of attention to their system.
Right.
You have some that, really embrace it and take ownership and really, utilize the full capability of those meters. But my suggestion is have your operator put that reader right on the dashboard of his village truck, And as he drives around doing his day-to-day work, whether he's, you know, exercising a hydrant or fixing, you know, broken curbs up, whatever. In his travels throughout the day, that reader will continually take in all the readings from all the meters you're near.
Wow.
And if one of them pops up, you know, potential leak at, you know, 220 Main Street, well, then he knows to stop at 220 Main Street, knock on their door, and, you know, that way they know, hopefully within days of a leak, not, you know, if you're billing quarterly, just have it go on for 3 months.
Right.
It'll be good for the people who, you know, like, go south through the
Yeah,
abandoned houses that we have, or whatever the case may be.
Or to catch people that sometimes steal water.
yeah.
I've run into that, where they happen to have a straight pipe section of the exact same laying length as the meter horn. So the day after meters are read, they swap out the meter and put in the straight pipe, and then maybe a week before they know the meter's gonna be read, 3 months later, they pop back in the meter. So these meters are smart, they'll know.
Man, I have
If there's no water usage for more than a day or 2 days or something like that, it'll send a similar alarm to the leak, like water theft alarm.
Man, on these EDUs, just to clarify, are these present numbers or are these anticipated future numbers?
These are present numbers.
Okay, so I guess if we look at it that way, what we're gonna pick up here with this project should have an effect on the rates.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely,
I mean, if we're gonna pick up 100 customers on the east-west service road or whatever the case may be,
absolutely.
the town's numbers go from 417 to 500, then there's gonna be a different cost per, you know.
Yes.
Well, and the great part is, as you picked up those additional ADUs, you know, your debt payment's still the same debt payment. So you have more people sharing that, which is, you know, less cost for everyone. So, you know, even with the village, I mean, as far as setting your village user rates, you know, this, again, this IMA memorializes all the financial exchanges, and once you plug in those revenues and those payments associated with a new project, again, you know, just like you do every year, you know, you have to figure out how much to charge per kgal to generate enough revenue to pay your annual bills. So I hope that addresses some of the concerns that people had about rates. After this IMA is passed, rates are just a function of math. Really, there's not much left to do with those.
I'm good.
Any questions for Matt? I mean,
No, I don't know if you're gonna touch on it, but how are you addressing this need for the comptroller to approve the application because it's higher than the threshold that, I don't know what the number is, but the 816 is higher than the threshold, which requires his approval. How are you addressing that?
Well, Bill Favreau sent the application to me to help him fill in a few things he had questions on, so we're working on that to get it back to him.
Okay.
The drinking water state revolving fund application, the one that's due February 3rd, doesn't say specifically that you have to have the state comptroller's approval on that.
Okay.
And if they do ask for it, you know, hopefully we have it by the time they ask for it.
Okay.
If we don't, then I guess we have to deal with it. But the state comptroller's main concern, if you're exceeding their published annual average, is that, did you follow all the processes correctly? Was the public given an opportunity? Did you hold the public hearing? Did the notice go out properly in advance? Was it published in the right? It's really just checking your process. It's just, okay, if you're under this, yeah, you're supposed to have done everything right, but I'm not gonna check.
Okay.
If you go above this amount, you're supposed to do everything right, and I'm gonna check now because, you know, it's just a way of I guess them, you know, verifying you're doing it correctly because you're asking so much of the public as far as funding.
Okay.
Maybe it's just to weed out how many they actually have to review.
So you don't think we need to have something in there that is a disclaimer that says contingent upon comptroller's approval?
In the IMA?
Yeah. I don't wanna complicate this, I'm
Right.
just wondering your thoughts on whether this is an issue for the February 3rd application or not, because when we talked the other day, we all felt like we try to get that comptroller approval before the application was submitted. Is that not realistic? I guess I should say.
There's no
is it a
indication of how
concern?
long it'll take to get state comptroller approval. I mean,
Okay.
some of the, what I've read is that, you know, again, it's more of a review of the process. And so I don't anticipate, as long as they go through, I mean, if they, as they review your actions in creating the district against municipal law requirements, you meet all those. You know, the public was given opportunity to participate, public hearings and so forth, then
Right.
I don't anticipate there being a problem. I just
Okay.
don't know how long it sits on somebody's desk at the state before it actually gets reviewed.
That's my concern.
But again, it's not actually on the checklist of items to be submitted with, you know, the rest of the package for February 3rd.
Okay. Are you all right, Greg?
In fact, this may help, the IMA may help the passage of this. You know, if the two municipalities agree, the comptroller's office, I think, the comptroller's office, as long as we follow the same steps that the steps are requiring, I would think that the comptroller's office will look at this as something which is agreeable, which is
Okay.
I don't think we need it in the IMA.
Okay. I don't know anybody else's thoughts on it. John?
Just
Yeah.
want to keep this process moving.
Yes.
I'm sitting here thinking, is next Thursday evening, would that be okay with the majority of the board to have a meeting? And that gives us 9 days roughly to review it and get back to Bill Favreau? Is that,
So you're talking 23rd?
well, I haven't got a calendar in front of me. But, well, Steve will figure out here
16th is 23rd.
23rd.
Yes.
Would that be workable, Steve?
Yeah, but is Favreau gonna be available to attend that meeting too? That's the thing.
I don't know that. I'll try to find that out tomorrow morning. Should I just, when I get Bill here, you certainly need his opinion and his expertise on this, just call you, have Julie publish it?
I'm good on the 23rd. I think we should set a date and tell him he needs to be here.
Well, if at all possible.
Well, no.
Yeah. No, yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's aware of the importance of getting.
Yeah, that's right. I don't mean to be,
No, right.
sound sarcastic, but, you know, we need to get him here.
Right.
He does work for other towns. I don't know if he has any Thursday night meetings anywhere, but I'll find that out in the morning. But should I have a motion that to, so Julie can advertise that? I'll tell her in the morning if it's okay with Bill.
I'll make a motion to that effect for a special meeting on January 23rd,
7 o'clock?
whatever time you guys want. It's-
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
A follow-on to your comment about keeping things moving,
Yeah.
with the project schedule.
Greg, you can make that too, right?
I love Excel spreadsheets.
That's too bad. I gotta sign this.
Somebody brainwashed you, right?
Listen, stock of the paper company.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll sign them, then I'll have Julie make a.
Do and improve everything.
I think he did.
23rd?
Who's on the list? We just get
I got 6 copies that he's gonna have. You gonna have 6 signed copies or 5?
I need 5 back, you can keep one, one original sign.
7 o'clock?
Yes.
So this is a project schedule that I updated a couple weeks ago. And it has the steps of the project on the left side, 1 through 33. These are significant milestones. There'd be a lot of copies of sub-items really if I really broke it down completely. But anyways, these are significant milestones on the project. And obviously, working your way across the spreadsheet, you can see that it represents the calendar months, January through December, 2013, and 14, and 15, and then roughly the costs associated with each step. The administrative cost, the technical cost, and construction cost. As you can see, just to get to construction, we are another year out from now. So 2013 is the first year shown on here, obviously behind us, but I've shown the steps taken in 2013. 2014, there's still quite a few project development steps to get us to a start of construction, hopefully by spring of 2015. Now this shows, this is all based upon us starting design in January. Once district formation is complete, the bond resolution is in the works with just the estoppel notice period remaining. After that, you would have the ability to take a bond anticipation note to fund the project, or at least the start of the project, till we can roll over into the EFC loan. So we've got district formation, bonding, and hopefully the IMA in place in January. You would be in a position then where we could start design on the project. And in doing so in January, puts you again at a start of construction in spring of 2015. That's how much there is to do between the day you give me the green light and the first shovel actually hits the ground. There's an awful lot to do. So I'm hopeful that once the IMA is in place, the bond estoppel notice period has gone through, that you are comfortable enough to begin design and development of the project. Because that would result in spring of 2015 start. Anything, obviously, every month we wait to start the project, keep pushing the start date of construction back equally, per month. And I understand, the health center is anticipating a 2015 construction, and, one of the main concerns of this project is being able to provide them water and sewer service when they need it, when their construction is complete, perhaps in 2015. So this is where I think we stand today, again, if we start design by the end of January.
Now, under the funding commitment, what's LGEG? I don't recognize that.
That's the local government efficiency grant.
Okay. Now, where does that,
Well, you got the sewer one, you didn't get the water.
okay.
Now, my suggestion is that we reapply again this year. I mean,
Okay.
it was the poster child. This is what really baffled me. I submitted 3 applications on behalf of my clients. 2 were yours, water and sewer, and another was a shared water project for another town in Lewis County. Out of those 3, I would rank your water project the #1 best candidate. It fits the purpose of that program to a T, and it's the only one out of the 3 that did not get funded. We still haven't got an explanation of that yet.
Okay.
But,
Curious.
I mean, we'll go through 2014 and 2015, we'll go through 2 more CFA funding cycles.
Right.
I think we keep bugging them until they get sick of us and just send some more money our way.
I think that's a great idea. Really.
So, I mean, until the project's finished and there's still expenses remaining, there's still need or reason to continue to apply for that additional grant funding.
Okay. Good thought.
Any questions for Matt?
Do you have any update on what the cost would be for a sewer project that might go along with this?
Absolutely. If there's no more questions on water, that's what I'm prepared to talk about next is sewer. Okay, jump right into that.
Jump right into that one.
Great meeting. Anthony's been working to put together a sewer district number 6 report. Now, what we had prepared and provided you previously was a sewer shared services report that had a service area that matched your water service area. Okay, now, this includes that same potential, but what we did and this revision is we broke it into 2 phases. Actually, we talked about this a while back, in fact, about breaking the project into 2 phases. Just because there isn't quite the grant funding available for sewer projects that there is for water projects. The drinking water program's sister program, the clean water program, has no grant component currently. Now, in some recent years, when the ERA funding came out, the stimulus money, they did throw some grant dollars in that program. As of now, there are no grant dollars in it. Now, they may come out with the next stimulus fund or some other fund where they'll put grant dollars in that program, but as of today, there is not. So the clean water program, the sister to the drinking water one, is loan only. Now, if you qualify, it's 0% loan, but that's still not enough to make the project feasible. What you did receive was the $415,000 local government efficiency grant for the sewer project. So we looked at how can we make that money work to get something done on the sewer project. If we break the $6 million sewer project out into 2 phases, 3 million, 2 almost equal sized projects, 3 million and 3 million. And the separation is at 276. So everything that can come back to the village by gravity would be in phase 1. Everything beyond that, there's a pretty distinct break in the grade there. That to the Village Russell Point line would be phase 2. Now phase 1 picks up the areas that I think you have felt to be the most critical areas. The West Service Road and Route 11 around the south side of the village, especially where the health clinic is proposed to be built. Those being the areas you want to service first and foremost. So that is roughly a $3 million project. We have run some funding and user cost scenarios in here that shows if you use that $400,000 grant and we get a 0% interest loan for the balance of the project cost, that you could have a feasible project that's going to result in user rates around $800 a year, which is about what the town district are paying. Now, there's one caveat to that. Again, you need an intermunicipal agreement with the village. In this case, it's a little simpler. There's not so many parts and pieces to that agreement. It's essentially what is the cost per kgal of discharging sewer to the village. So what our spreadsheet does, and for the funding scenarios and user cost scenarios, and that's in section 7.2 on page 14. You have, for phase 1, the total project cost, minus the grant, leaves a loan of about $3 million. We show the EDUs, the debt charge, and then what we did after that is the 4 columns represent 4 different village sewer fees, ranging from $5 per kilogallon per kgal to $8 per kgal. So what we did is said, this is the project, this is the funding we expect or have in hand. What would the user cost be to the people in that district if the village charged them $5, $6, $7, or $8? So you have resulting user costs at the bottom based on those 4 possible rates from the village, sewer rates. Now the village currently charges, I believe, $6 to inside users. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes.
So we've shown that as an option, we've shown a little less as an option, we've shown more as an option. Again, resulting in those user fees from $746 a year all the way up to $910 a year. I'm hoping we can, engage in conversation on the sewer project similar to as we have in the water, where, this is really, a team cooperative effort in improving the water and sewer service in the town. But it would require the village to make a concession on their sewer rate to this district. Now, this type of table has been in the shared services reports that we've done and have had various revisions on for the last 2 years, of there being a reduction in the village's sewer fee. Now, although it's been in there, I've taken the liberty of putting in there just to show this is what it would have to be to make it a feasible project. We haven't established anything of a formal agreement between the town and village for that kind of reduced fee. Now, looking at just sewer district 6 alone, with what we would anticipate for sewer discharge at, let's say, the $6 per kgal, it would generate an additional $60,000 of revenue for the village annually. $60,000 that they're not receiving now, because these are all brand new users. So without that reduction in rate, they would see no new revenue, because this district simply won't happen. If they are willing to reduce their rate, then they could see an additional $60,000 annual revenue. Now, where the conversation seems to go next, when we've talked about this, is what about all the existing town sewer districts? That's the tough part. When we present this simply as sewer district 6 getting the deal, it's a win-win. That the village, the town district becomes cost feasible, we can make it happen. The village gets $60,000 additional revenue, great. We throw in the other existing town districts getting that same rate reduction deal. Well, then the village may be getting some additional revenue from sewer district 6, but they're now losing revenue from the other districts because the rate's going down. Now, I haven't calculated that out completely to see where we net, because they're gonna lose some revenue and they're gonna gain some revenue. I think it'd be a net gain, but I haven't run those numbers yet, so I can't stand here and tell you that it would be.
We have a lot less wastewater users than we do water. If I'm correct, Julie might know that.
In your existing sewer districts,
Yes.
yes, correct.
My question is, this $415,000 grant that we've been awarded, if we go ahead and start the project, can we use that money for the engineering costs and everything up front?
Absolutely.
So we don't get in the same position where,
Absolutely, and then it gives you some time then, it gives you the money to get started, and then it gives you time to close on an EFC loan, to get 0% interest for the rest of the
I
project.
have never gotten official notice on that, though, from Albany.
You haven't gotten a letter? The other town I'm working with got a letter, in fact, theirs was just dated, if you don't mind, just a moment, I just had them email it to me on my way here, so that I could see a copy of it. But theirs is sent from the Department of State, and it was dated
Came out in early December, didn't it, sometimes? or-
December 19th.
December 19th?
The announcements were made on 11th, maybe?
Okay.
11th, I believe,
I did
is when
see-
the announcements were, 11th or 12th is when the announcements were made. And the other town received their commitment letter on December 19th.
I spoke to the gentleman in Albany, and he told me somebody would be in contact with us. Have not yet.
Well, and the other interesting part about the whole local government efficiency grant thing, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but although I said that your water project was, in my opinion, the best candidate and most fitting to what that program is about, and unofficially, we did find out that it is the next project on the list. So if any of the other award recipients don't use their money, let's say they were counting on getting that and a whole bunch of other grant money to make their project work, they didn't get all the other, so the 400's not enough and they give it back, then the next on the list is the water project. But, I mean, we can't count on that.
Right. I have to say, I agree with the catch-22 about current users versus new users and how we can justify establishing a new district at a lower rate than pre-existing users. I mean, that's just not, it's not right.
Now, different districts have different rates for different reasons. Typically, it's associated with their debt. Some districts had to take on more debt to build, some had less debt to build. I don't see, like, if it's, if you're receiving a water supply or discharging sewer to a village, I typically don't see varied rate for varied districts in that case.
Right. I guess it's interesting to note for me that, you know, there is no funding out there for these projects, but we got $400,000 to do it. I mean, it seems hypocritical in my mind. Am I off base?
You mean the Clean Water Fund not having any grant money?
Yeah, but yet we qualified for $415,000.
Who's reason?
Oh, you applied for
Well,
those grant.
but that's not what we really,
Yeah, it's just that Clean Water Program has no grant component to it. It's been an exception to the rule when it did have grant. In fact, they wouldn't even call it grant when they did. They called it principal forgiveness. They wouldn't even use the G word. When they did put it in there, they called it principal forgiveness. So you took a loan in which they forgave the principal.
Hey, the positive is, I think about the West Service Road, and if we do have, and Mickey's been saying this for as long as I've been on this board, if we can't say we don't have water and wastewater, it puts us at a lesser level than other municipalities that can offer both.
I think what, certainly gonna have an influence on decisions regarding this rate is going to be that calculation of if you give it to sewer district 6 and you give it to the others, where does the village fare in revenue?
I don't think you're talking about a lot of users on the sewer side in the other districts though. I think we only have like around 50 water and sewer customers. We might have maybe 20 sewer customers in there, Julie?
You're gonna pick up some on South Street.
Yeah, we're gonna pick up new ones, but I'm talking about the ones that we currently have. Where if the rate were to be reduced, it's not like you're looking at 100 users. I think that the number is relatively small in comparison.
I mean, if the reduction, or if the loss of revenue is, I'm just throwing out numbers, but let's say the loss of revenue is 10 grand a year, but the increase in revenue is 60 grand a year, a net of a $50,000 increase, I shouldn't, put myself in your board member shoes, but I would say, gosh, that still looks pretty favorable. But on the other hand, if there's, a $60,000 increase, but a $50,000 decrease in revenue, and you're only gonna net 10 grand a year out of this, well, boy, it'd be a little tougher decision. Not that, but again, I want to act it. There's been definitely a great sense of cooperation going on throughout all of this. So, I think there's a solution to be found here in this.
Is there any timeline yet on the construction of the sewer side of the project?
Well, I mean, so much of it hinges on how soon we get started. Just like with the water project, The first steps were district formation, and then we had to go through bond resolution, and then finally the estoppel notice period. All that has to go through, which, district formation itself is, at least a 60-day period, and then the whole bond resolution part is, again, almost another 60-day period. So you're 4 months just getting the legal steps behind you.
A year roughly.
Well, it's a much smaller project than the water, so I think even though it could lag by 4 months in the legal process, I could get it caught up in the design process and hopefully be able to bid those together. Again, to see the economy of scale, have the same contractor doing both the water and sewer, so that there's a coordinated effort, again, economy of scale for savings. You know, you're gonna get a better price on, you know, one contractor mobilizing once rather than 2 separate contractors mobilizing 2 separate times to do water and sewer.
The reason I ask is I gave you all a copy of an application from the health department I received the other day. It's for a project on the West Service Road, and they want to do an elevated bed system, and it looks like, it's an engineered system. And these people are gonna spend a lot of money, and if we're gonna put a sewer system in a year, I don't wanna be the one standing on the sidewalk when they start screaming. Now, I don't know if it's an option for these people to pump for a year, or you know, what options they have, if they have any, but.
Yeah, I mean, that, if, it's still, you know, difficult at this time to be able to make a commitment to them, but you're right, I mean, for them to spend, who knows, it could be
Well,
upwards of $100,000.
I guess what I'm looking for is, you know, if I could call the health department and offer a solution in the interim while we're waiting for them.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure if they're building and they need to do this, or it's just because they're on bedrock and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But sort of like to get an idea of the timeline, so it's about a year, which I kind of figured.
Yep.
Can I go back to the rates just for one more
Sure,
time?
sure.
What are we currently charging our existing wastewater users per K gallon? What's that, do we know? I don't know.
$16,
I think the village fee is 15 or 16.
Okay. So what I'm looking at is, can we show, I know I'm beyond where I need to be, but can we show this kind of a balancing act between the 2 types of users where everybody would show some type of benefit? Because don't we have some pretty decent sized users that aren't too happy with their bills every quarter?
Well, you got McDonald's and Maple Fields and,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
I'm
places of
saying as
that,
far as
Polaros.
those big users, not any user, couldn't we figure out a way to lower theirs and have the new rate come in a little bit so that we can balance this out? That's what I'm looking at,
Well,
trying.
you gotta keep in mind that you have significant service charges added to that too.
Yes.
I mean, I think the service charges are more than what the water rates are.
Okay.
And those are gonna have
Water
to be,
treatment,
they'll have to be, they'll have to be addressed by the town board. You know,
Okay.
and basically, that's to cover the debt structure that, you know, you have in those existing areas now.
Well, debt and operation and maintenance, so
yeah, I'm
I
ahead
think
of
we're
this.
$1.58, I think, over and above. We're charged for operation and maintenance, am I correct, Julie, approximately?
What is it?
$1.58.
I'm trying to figure out right now what we charge.
That's okay. I'm ahead of the game here.
Well, it's $16.60 right now.
Is that what it is?
And that's stayed steady for the last 5 years.
Mm.
And we haven't made any adjustments at all for both the town and the village.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that 1660, with an average single-family home usage of 55,000 gallons a year, that's over a $900 a year sewer bill. Not that ties directly to the rates, but I'm just saying, in comparison to these user costs that we're projecting. Typical households paying over $900 a year now.
Right.
So just keep that in mind when you're looking at.
I'm trying to think, do we have any residential sewer users, maybe, you know, they're all commercial?
I think they're all
All
commercial,
commercial.
yeah.
There's nothing on the west service, nothing on the Ridge Road and nothing on South Street.
No, Ridge Road's all commercial,
Ferris Mills Water District, they just get water.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's just commercial, I think.
Okay. Any,
So again, that's, the great news is that you were a recipient of $415,000 grant. And, the next step, the next challenge is then, again, working with the village to see if you can come up with a solution that creates a feasible project.
Okay.
But we're not far. I mean, it's within grasp, I think. The sense of cooperation that we've seen over the last 2 years between the town and village is really encouraging. That we'll find a solution.
any other questions from Matt? Any questions of us?
Well, just take this home, read it cover to cover, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. And then, once, if a new sewer rate is established, that table will then only have one column, whatever is agreed upon for a rate. And whenever that results in a user cost, you'll have to decide if that's what you're willing to move forward with the project. And then this would be your district formation document, which you would move, with that exact dollar figure.
Okay. Thank you.
Next time.
Welcome.
Do you wanna know what we charge the customer?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
$17.95
Okay,
is what we charge.
okay.
And they probably charge us $16.60.
Yeah, I think it's $1.58 it used to be anyways,
Okay.
$1.30 something for water. Julie, this is that sixth copy, do you copy that
Yeah.
in the morning, put one in everybody's box? I keep one in the file. Matt, I have those,
Okay.
5 signed copies, and those other 3 of that first,
And then that, our application. When we send the application into EFC, we'll make you a copy of the complete document, including the sign page.
take 10 seconds for you, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm pretty certain they're all
Okay.
signed.
Will do.
I thank you. Back to the regular meeting. You have your town clerk's yearly reports. We do those monthly,
Yeah, I just printed those out so you can see.
Information only?
Yeah, from year to year what I did.
okay.
I just need approval in the December one.
Where's,
It was the first one, would be the first one. You don't have it?
that says 12.
Here, this is one. I let you guys have it. You got it?
Yeah, I have it.
The one,
December one,
December.
dated January 2nd.
Okay, we need to approve Julie's town clerk monthly report, December 2013. Everybody have that from?
yes,
Yes.
Any questions on it?
no. I
Okay.
make a motion to approve the town clerk's monthly report as presented.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Okay. We need to approve pre-bill water and sewer billing.
Matt?
Here, gentlemen.
Thanks, Matt.
Anthony?
Good evening.
Rex?
Thanks, Greg. Did you have a motion to approve the water?
Not yet.
Okay. Something we started a year or 2 ago, I guess on the auditor's recommendation.
I'll make a motion to approve the utility billing pre-bill report.
I'll second that.
I thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Carried.
that's your source for what we were just talking about.
The water.
With,
Yeah.
you know, the billing, the current billing.
Yep. If you review those, you'll see some pay pretty good service
Yeah.
charges.
Yeah.
Usage charges,
We got a letter from the Real Property Tax Service Agency out of Plattsburgh. There's somebody in this building every Thursday, for certain, and sometimes they're here on Mondays, but on Thursdays they're always here for any assessments, questions, or anything to do with the Real Property Office. So every Thursday, somebody's here, that's strictly for information. You have your dog control officer's report. It seems like a yearly thing, that the page is pretty full every month.
Yeah, because if you look at that, to go back, sorry, but if you got water in sewer, it's $26.99
right,
they pay
yeah,
for 1,000 gallons.
per thousand, yeah.
Thank you. You have your monthly report for December of 2013 from your code enforcement officer, and the things that he did or reviewed during the month of December, that information on it. I have a letter here from James Favreau. In a follow-up of last night's meeting, please accept this letter as my official resignation, effective December 31st, 2013. It has been a pleasure to serve with you and the fellow board members of this group over the past few years. Okay, this is Jim Favreau's resigning off the town planning board. Motion to accept his resignation.
Make a motion, we accept Mr. Favreau's resignation with regrets. Really good thing for service of town.
Okay, have a second to that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
I agree.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you for his service.
of those letters I sent around just before the meeting,
Yes.
there's one in there going to Jim, and there's also letters going in there thanking the people that worked on updating the zoning laws, okay? And I'll sign those. Okay, interesting. The letter we got here from New York State Department of Taxation pertaining to the updating this coming year, this year, of the taxable status of all properties within the township. I talked to Tim Shapinsky the other day. He's pleased with where we're at with the reassessments. It's possible. They did not give us any money for a couple of years, the state. They usually reimburse us up to $5 a parcel. There may be some money coming, because this is a reevaluation every third or fourth year. He's not sure yet the cost of that. Okay. We got a letter from Robert Wilsonholm regarding the boat in the water at Kings Bay. Well, it just shows us some concerns. I'm sure there's concerns of other people in that area, but we wanted to put it in writing.
I'm surprised the DEC isn't involved in that. They must be, wouldn't they be?
The only thing they did was ticketed the guy for no light on his anchor line.
Wow.
The DEC will get involved if it floats away in the spring, it'll be a navigational hazard, but as it is, apparently there's nothing they can do.
There's no contamination going on or anything?
I guess not, from their point of view, so.
Well, it's certainly out of our hands, so
That's right.
Yeah.
we have no control over it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, the DEC or somebody else will have to handle that. I'm sure that people are aware of that. Superintendent Highway report. I heard today they delivered the culvert that they bought for Waters Road. That's good. Hopefully, he intended to install it. I don't know if he still does or not. It's a 40-foot long culvert. Needs to be put together and put in place. We ordered it about a month ago. I know nothing else other than, I know the highway crew did a good job the past month. We had some severe ice storms and they whittled down the sand pile extensively. But the past week, 10 days, it's been a lot easier, so hopefully we get through the winter with the existing supply that we have on hand. Okay? I am, do you have anything in the town clerk's report?
Yeah, I've got that.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, first thing is, we have our annual conference, Mickey and I, coming up in March in
Lee Pesson?
Lake Placid. I'd like approval to go.
Okay.
I make a motion to go, that Julie and Mickey go to their annual conference in March, funded by the town.
I'll second that.
Okay. This is for, to get their
Credit for the code office.
credit, update credits, I would say, the yearly credits that they need to do every year. So I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, at the last planning board meeting, Carl Shank was nominated to be chairperson and Bob Wesselholm as vice chair. And Annie Rochester would like to be moved up as a member because Jim Favreau resigned.
She's an alternate now, I believe.
Yeah, and Bob Wesselholm's term was up, and he would like to continue to stay on too for another 5 years.
Should we take those
So we
separately?
need, yeah, we need approval of all that.
Separately, though, each one?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve Carl Shank as chairman of the planning board.
I so move.
Second.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We need a motion to approve Robert for another 5-year term.
And also as
You want them
vice chair.
separate?
We can do them together.
Okay, to approve Robert Wilson Home as vice chair of that board and for another 5-year term, all in one motion.
I'll make that motion.
I thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And then if you wish to approve Annie as a full-time member.
That's right, okay. Annie Rochester is, Ann Rochester is an alternate. She's been an alternate for a few years now. I understand she's fairly active. I'd like that, a motion to approve her as a full board member.
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We are looking for another alternate for that board. I don't know, we haven't got an answer, I don't believe, Richard, have we? From,
I think, Larry, I think the answer was he was gonna attend both meetings and then make a decision.
okay.
You were there.
Yeah, well, yeah, I haven't heard from, he did attend one meeting, planning board.
So he's gotta attend both meetings and he's gonna make a decision to which board. I
I will
think
be-
that's the way it was left.
Yeah,
We have options.
yeah. Okay, so we'll work on that later.
Okay, the board needs to approve Janice Letourneau as marriage officer.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Janice Letourneau's marriage officer.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
And I'd like to appoint Jane West as my deputy town clerk register.
I so move.
Second.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's also carried.
We also got a letter from the retirement, and we have to set a standard workday. So, standard workday resolution for employees. So for town clerk, tax collector, highway superintendent, code officer, court clerk, and secretary, is an 8-hour standard workday. So they have to be approved.
Could I have a motion to approve those as read for standard 8-hour workday for the retirement system? This is what it's all about.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's also carried.
And now for standard workday for supervisor and for clerk of the zoning board, 6-hour workday.
Okay.
I so move.
I'll second.
Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's also carried.
And I think that's all I have.
Do we need to reappoint Bruce Seaman as the chairman of the
They haven't did that yet. We'll decide that,
next month?
well, this Thursday's the zoning board
Will
meeting.
come back to us next month then, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just one more thing, just wanted to let the board know that I'm finally all set up and running to sell hunting and fishing
Good.
licenses with my new program.
Okay. We've been waiting for that for
It took a while.
a month.
I'm running now, so
Okay.
that's it.
We need to review the post audit bills, which they're there for your review, but we need to approve the monthly bills. They're also in front of you.
I'll make a motion to approve the monthly bills.
Second?
Any questions on any of the bills? I did review them this afternoon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Do you have anything else, Julie?
No.
Does any other board member have anything else? I do need an executive session for personnel. I'd like to have a motion to go into executive session for personnel.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried, thank you. Thank you, Julie.